Today we're driving into a lung disease most of us have heard of, COPD. But what if I told you that its biggest threat, the thing that's actually the most deadly, isn't in the lungs at all? Yeah, we're about to unmask a silent accomplice that's responsible for more deaths than the breathing problems themselves.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if the most dangerous part of a really common illness is something that most people, and hey, even some doctors, tend to overlook? Well, that is the exact mystery we're going to solve right now.
And our story starts, as you might guess, with the usual suspect, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or as we all know it, COPD.
So what is COPD really? Well, you probably heard the name, but at its core, it's a long-term disease that makes it harder and harder to breathe. Think of it as a constant state of inflammation that blocks up your airways. It's a huge deal, affecting millions and millions of people all over the world. And when you think about COPD, these are the things that pop into your head, right? That nagging cough, always being out of breath, maybe some wheezing. These are the obvious clues, the loud, attention-grabbing signs that make us think, okay, this is a lung problem. The lungs are clearly the scene of the crime. But here's the twist. While everyone is focused on the lungs, on all that coughing and wheezing, they're missing the real danger. It turns out those obvious symptoms are kind of like a distraction, a smokescreen, for a much more dangerous plot that's unfolding silently somewhere else in the body.
So, if it's not the obvious lung stuff, what is this hidden killer? All right, it's time to reveal its true identity.
The deadliest threat for someone with COPD isn't pneumonia. It's not lung failure. In fact, it's not a respiratory issue at all.
It's heart disease, cardiovascular disease to be exact. That is the silent killer that stalks people with COPD. And frankly, it's about time we dragged it out of the shadows and into the light.
Okay, so the big question is, how? How in the world can a disease that starts in your lungs be so devastating for your heart? Let's connect the dots.
This is probably the best way to picture what's happening. Think of that inflammation in the lungs not like a controlled campfire, but more like a wildfire that's sending out sparks. And those sparks get into the bloodstream and start little fires all over your body.
It's this devastating chain reaction. So first, you have the chronic inflammation in the lungs, but it doesn't stay there. Inflammatory proteins actually leak into your blood. These sparks then travel everywhere, damaging your arteries, making them stiff and narrow, and forcing your heart to work way, way harder just to do its job. It's under constant strain.
And this is how it hides in plain sight. On one side, you have the obvious threat, the coughing, the wheezing, everything we associate with COPD. But on the other side, you have the hidden threat, things like high blood pressure, fatigue, or chest pain. Quiet, sneaky signs of heart disease that often go completely unnoticed until things get really serious.
And the numbers here, they are absolutely staggering. Get this. People with COPD are more than twice as likely to die from cardiovascular disease than from any primary lung issue. Let me say that again. Twice as likely. The hidden killer is actually the #1 killer.
Okay, that's the problem. It's a big one, I know. But the good news is, once you know who the enemy is, you can actually fight back. So let's talk about the action plan.
Here is the most important takeaway from all of this. Managing COPD can't just be about your lungs anymore. It has to be a two-front war. You have to be just as focused on protecting your heart as you are on helping your breathing. So this is your game plan. This is the conversation you need to have with your doctor. Of course, you follow your COPD medication plan, but you also need to be proactive about your heart. Ask for screenings for blood pressure and cholesterol. Quitting smoking is, without a doubt, the single biggest thing you can do. And things like pulmonary rehab and a heart-healthy diet, they help defend both your lungs and your heart at the same time. And that's why this is so powerful. Just knowing that the inflammation in your lungs is a direct threat to your heart, that knowledge gives you the power to ask the right questions, to take control of your health, and to actually change the outcome. So, there it is. We've exposed the silent killer. You know the secret now. A lung disease's deadliest threat is actually to the heart. The only question left is, now that you know, what are you going to do to protect your whole body?